Invasive species. Hello, my name is Chelsea Torres, and I'm here to tell you about the problem of invasive species. But before I talk about this problem, what is an invasive species anyway? Invasive species are plants and animals that are accidentally or intentionally brought to a certain area where they did not belong before. In an environment's original state, there are native species living in it, and these species learn how to live together. Any change to this ecosystem can shock them, and perhaps harm them. An example of this change are invasive species. What are the effects of invasive species? The effect of invasive species in an ecosystem could be irreversible and devastating. Once invasive species are introduced to an area, they would either fall to survive or most likely become invasive. As an invasive species, they will consume food and live in the same habitat as the native species. This increases the pressure on consumption. The invasive species may consume more than the native species, thereby causing the native species fend with lesser resources. Many invasive species may die and eventually become extinct. Invasive species cost of damage around the world is immensely estimated to 1.4 trillion US dollars per year. In the United States alone, its cost of damages reaches to more than $120 billion every year. Many organizations have tried to find ways to prevent this problem, and it has cost them a great amount of money. 100 million US dollars was spent by the Department of Interior in 2011 on the prevention and research of invasive species. What are some examples of invasive species? Invasive species are noted as one of the leading causes of population decrease and the extinction of animals. This snail reached its way to Southeast Asia intentionally as a food item and aquarium pet. Eventually, they had escaped or had been released, leading them to places such as Hawaii and Florida. These golden apple snails consume food 24 hours a day, referring to competition of food among invasive and non-invasive species. The golden apple snail has outcompeted the pila apple snail in Southeast Asia, whose population has now decreased. This little species looks like it cannot affect any big problem, but it can. And there are also many other species out there that can do exactly the same, less, or worse damage. Other examples include the common Asian black rat, the Chinese soft-shelled turtle, and a plant known as the buyo-buyo. Invasive species damage has cost the Philippines and the rest of Southeast Asia a stunning 33.5 billion US dollars a year. Not all newly introduced species become invasive. Many people intentionally use specific species for agriculture, fisheries, and many other uses. Most farmers introduce new species in order to eliminate certain pests. How does it affect people? For fishermen especially, invasive species affect them greatly. Their bait gets moved around, and it is harder for them to catch fish, which then would cause the prices of fish to rise because it is so hard to catch these fish. For farmers, just like the fishermen, their crops are being diminished. These non-native species are consuming the crops that was meant to be sold for us to eat or for them to survive. These invasive species cause great economic loss. How do we help invasive species? We can help invasive species even at home. But how can we do this? Regular people, like me, should be avoiding bringing home a plant or animal species when on vacations out of town. We need to reduce the introduction of these alien species to other environments, like how our moms would tell us, don't talk to strangers because yes, they could be bad for you. We should also start spreading awareness about this issue by telling other people why they too should not take animals or plants from its habitat and be brought to other places or have them as pets. Finally, what I want you to take from this is that we need to spread the word of invasive species and let everyone be aware of this issue.